Good Friday morning. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to get rolling with a one-point perspective lettering drawing using letters of our name. I'm obviously going to use my last name. And I gave you a little bit longer sheet of paper today. You know, instead of 8.5 by 11, I went 8.5 by 14. Give you more space to create your lettering. Also, you're going to notice in your Google Classroom, I did make an announcement on there that it's a sheet and it's just got the lettering on there. So if you need to look at some of those letters to sketch those out, feel free to do so. So with the perspective drawing, you know, we're going to have a horizon line and a vanishing point. But we're going to have three lines. We're going to have two lines close to the bottom. That's going to be like the top and bottom guideline for our letters. We'll have a horizon line up close to the top with a vanishing point. So I'm just going to lay my ruler down, and I'm going to call out three measurements, and we're just going to kind of make our notches there. And now you know how I do this. I'll measure here, I'll slide over, and I'll measure here again, then I'll line up the lines. Okay, so my first line is going to be at 1. My next one at 3, and my last one at 7. So 1, 3, and 7. Okay, I'm going to scoot that over, and I'm going to do the same thing. 1, 3, and 7. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and set my ruler up. I'm going to make those guidelines. Now my guidelines for my lettering, I definitely want to go light because we'll end up erasing those. And you know, I just kind of went the length of my ruler. My ruler is shorter than yours. Yours should reach all the way across to the end of the paper. I think your rulers are actually 18 inches. Okay. I will probably extend my horizon line to the end of the paper. All right, now if you'd like, vanishing point, paper's 14 inches long. Let's just say 7 would be our medium, or in between. So I'm just going to put my horizon line, or my vanishing point, at number 7. Excuse me. All right. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to create our lettering here, and you're going to have tops and sides going up and creating three-dimensional lettering. All right. I'm obviously going to use my last name, which is Powell. First name is Mr., so that wouldn't be for a drawing. All right. So you can choose your first name or last name. You know, if you've got a first name that's 1 or 2 letters, I would probably pick my last name. Okay. Let's stay away from nicknames. Let's just get a name on there. That reminds me, don't forget to put a name on the back. All right. So here we go. Now I'm just going to go ahead and sketch my letters out. You guys can take a moment if you need to. If you need to pause this and take a look at some of your other lettering, the lettering sheet I gave you, go ahead. Remember, I told you guys that if you have trouble with lettering, you know, print the lettering out, use that as your skeleton, and draw around it. Go ahead and get my letters in. I'm going to work pretty quickly to keep this video brief. Like I said, you guys can, you know, pause and restart this video as many times as you need. I'm just going to make sure I get mine in rather quickly. Now something like a W, instead of coming to a point, I'm going to kind of give myself kind of a squared in there. I think that's easier to pull lines off of for perspective instead of an actual point. So I'm just printing. I'm staying all uppercase. Now the sheet I left you in your Google Classroom is all uppercase letters. If you want to go with lowercase letters, you know, you guys have your little Google machine there, Google Image. Get you some lowercase letters. If that's what it takes to make your little heart flutter page, go with it. Okay. So remember, you know, also when we're doing perspective, whether it's 1 point, 2 point, any of that, remember, one of our key things is to erase lines we don't need as we go. So I'm probably going to go ahead and get rid of all these little extra lines here. Lines that are, because those may become a little confusing later on. Let's go ahead and get this stuff set up. Alright, so I've got my lettering set up. Now you guys know, from 1 point perspective, you guys, any point or corner that you can find, we're going to send to the vanishing point. Let's just take a look at what we got. All right. Any point or corner that I have without going through my object, we're going to send to the vanishing point. So some of the stuff should seem very repetitive to you. And if it is, that's good. It means you learned something. So we've got a curved surface here. Remember, if you guys remember talking about curved surface, ours ended up, we did the cylinders day one. It ended up looking kind of like an ice cream cone or a microphone. You know, you're going to find the two farthest points you can go without, say, something like this. Now, something else you may run into is some of these are going to run into your other letters. All right. Sometimes you just got to cut them off. So I'm going to say I'm going to probably cut all my letters off right here. I didn't measure that. I just said maybe an inch or so. That's about an inch or so above it. So I'm just going to kind of start. So I know that's going to be kind of my cutoff part. Now, by saying that, let's just start with the tops of our letters. Okay, let's get the easy parts done first. So we're going to set up the tops. Like I said, I just kind of sketched in a little line there so I know where I'm going to stop them. Tops are going to be the easiest. The harder parts is where we're coming in down here off like these L's, these E's and W's. Now you guys are all going to have different letters. You know, some of you guys may end up with some S's. There's some, you know, Q's. Oops, shouldn't have done that yet. R's, things like that. So you guys are going to deal with some curved surfaces. Okay, so I'm just kind of sending the tops first. This letter P, notice it's going to run into that O line. That's all right. You know, when you're drawing letters, now if I would have spaced them out, you know, that may not have ran in, but to me letters don't look right unless they're spaced together closely. Okay, so I know these are all going to cut off. Oops, slide my drawing around. These are all going to cut off up here at this top line. So let's just go ahead and cut these guys off. Okay, letter O is curved. So I'm just going to kind of curve it down and eventually it'll meet that. Same way here. We're just going to curve over here until I run into that O line. Okay? So, you know, we've got our tops here. I'm going to go ahead and shade them in just so they feel different. I notice this one doesn't have as much of a curve. Sometimes if you want to curve it like this, and that ends up shortening it up a little bit, sometimes that looks a little better. So it just depends on you. You know, if some of you guys dealing with B's and P's and R's, S's, you're going to deal with something like that. Alright, so that's going to leave us some of these bottom points here. Okay, and that's where the tricky part can come in. So when we send these bottom ones up, we really don't want to go up all the way up here. You know, this section, this piece is taller than this piece, so I'm just going to shorten it up. Kind of same way here. I like to cut all this stuff off pretty short. So if I take a look at what I got, this point right here lines up. You know, I'm probably just going to cut it off about there. You know, we don't want it to go all the way up and meet this. It's not going to look right. But that's going to give us this point. So here's where some of this trickiness comes in. You know, some of these letters are going to run into one another a little bit. But I'm going to try to set up something where when I line this bottom one up to my vanishing point, it's going to hit that line. Okay? So this point's the same way. So I may just kind of cut that one off. Send that guy down to where it's a nice angle to cut off. Like I said, you're going to end up with some letters that cut into one another. But that's okay. You know, if you need to erase and spread your letters out a little bit, that's fine. May even help you a little bit. So I'll just kind of let you guys judge. I would keep my things pretty short. Now W can get a little tricky. All right, so my W, I'm going to go up to about where the top guideline was. All right, but parallel lines. Okay, so you're going to have to recreate this W shape again. Okay, so we're kind of gives us those 2 points there. Send these guys up a little bit. I'm just going to meet those lines right there. Okay.